Her name was Ayla Rowan, and she was 11 years old when her life finally shifted direction. Before that, her world had been made of borrowed rooms and unfamiliar faces. She had no parents to remember, no siblings to argue with, no place that belonged to her. Before we go on, please like this video and subscribe. It supports the channel and helps us share more meaningful stories with you. She moved from house to house, always temporary, always careful. Some families were gentle, others cold. In every home she worked quietly. She scrubbed floors, minded younger children, folded clothes that were never hers. At night, she lay awake wondering what it would feel like to be wanted. Just once, she would whisper to herself, staring at the ceiling. One afternoon, a woman from the agency told her she was being sent to a new home. The place was called Willow House, far away on an island surrounded by red roads and green fields. The words sounded soft, almost unreal. Ayla pressed her hands together and asked, "Do you think they'll keep me?" The woman only smiled and said, "We'll see." That answer scared her, but hope crept in anyway. For the first time, Ayla allowed herself to imagine a door that would not close behind her. The train ride felt endless, yet when it stopped, Ayla's heart raced. The station was quiet, painted gold by the setting sun. She stood alone, gripping her small bag, watching strangers reunite with smiles and laughter. Minutes passed, and more. Her hope began to shrink. "Maybe they forgot," she murmured. Just as fear tightened her chest, she noticed a tall man walking toward her. He moved slowly, like someone unused to crowds. His coat was worn, his eyes gentle. He stopped a few steps away and cleared his throat. "Are you the child from the agency?" he asked. Ayla nodded quickly. "I'm Ayla," she said. "Are you here for me?" He hesitated. "Yes," he replied, then added softly, "though I was told I'd be meeting a boy." Her smile faded. "I'm not a boy," she said, trying to keep her voice steady. The man looked flustered. "Then there's been some mistake," he murmured. Ayla's chest ached. "Please," she said quickly. "I can help. I work hard. I won't be trouble." He studied her face for a long moment before sighing. "Let's go home first," he said. "My sister will decide." His name, she learned on the walkout, was Jonah Hale. The ride to Willow House felt like drifting through a painting. Trees arched over the road, their leaves glowing in the fading light. Fields stretched wide and peaceful, and the air smelled of earth and wildflowers. Ayla talked without stopping. She told Jonah how she liked naming trees and how stories kept her company at night. "I think places remember us," she said earnestly. "Even when people don't." Jonah listened, nodding now and then, his mouth twitching with quiet amusement. When they reached the house, Ayla's breath caught. It was white with deep green trim, standing calm and solid, as if it had been waiting. Flowers bordered the path. A woman stood at the door, tall and straight, her eyes sharp and measuring. "Where's the boy?" she asked. Jonah shifted. "There isn't one," he said gently. "This is the child they sent." The woman's lips pressed thin. "We asked for help, not complications," she said. Ayla stepped forward, voice trembling. "Please don't send me away," she pleaded. "I'll earn my place." The woman studied her in silence before turning aside. "Inside," she said. "We'll discuss this in the morning." That night, Ayla lay awake in the small room, staring at unfamiliar stars, whispering the same wish over and over. "Let me stay." Morning brought no comfort. The woman, Mara Hale, took Ayla into town to speak with the agency contact. "There's been an error," Mara said firmly. "This child isn't suited for farm work." Ayla stood stiffly, hands clenched. Agent shrugged. "Another family could take her," she said casually. Ayla's heart sank. She knew the name they mentioned. She had seen the woman before. Hard eyes, sharp voice. Fear spilled out of her before she could stop it. "Please," Ayla said, tears falling. "I can learn. Just give me time." Mara watched her closely. The carriage ride back was silent. When they reached Willow House, Mara spoke at last. "We'll keep her," she said. Jonah's face softened with relief. "I thought you might." From that day, Ayla worked harder than she ever had. She washed, cleaned, learned routines, memorized rules. At school, she faced stares and teasing, but she refused to shrink. She read constantly, wrote endlessly, and slowly, quietly, Willow House began to feel less like borrowed space and more like something fragile and real. School tested Ayla in ways Willow House never had. On her first day, she felt every stare land on her hair, her clothes, her quiet confidence that hid 1,000 fears. Whispers followed her down the aisle. One boy leaned back in his chair and muttered something that made others laugh. "Ignore them," a girl beside her whispered, offering a quick smile. That girl's name was Nissa Brooke, and from that moment, Ayla felt less alone. Still, not all wounds healed easily. When a boy called Rel Thorne laughed and called her Firehead, something snapped. Without thinking, Ayla lifted her slate and struck his desk. The room fell silent. Later, as she stood outside the classroom, shaking with shame, she told herself she would never let anger control her again. That night, she studied by lamplight until her eyes burned. "If I can't belong easily," she whispered, "I'll belong by effort." Jonah noticed her determination. He would leave small gifts on the table, a ribbon, a pencil, once even a book. "You didn't need to," she said shyly. He only smiled. "I wanted to," he replied. Mara said little, but Ayla noticed how instructions turned into trust, how watchful eyes softened. It wasn't love yet, but it was something growing. Nissa became Ayla's anchor. They walked to school together, sharing dreams and secrets as the seasons shifted. "I want a simple life," Nissa once said. "A warm house and laughter." Ayla smiled. "I want to learn everything," she replied. Trouble came one afternoon when Ayla invited Nissa for tea while Mara was away. Wanting to impress, she poured a deep red drink she believed was sweet cordial. They laughed until Nissa's cheeks flushed and her steps wobbled. Panic set in fast. "Something's wrong," Nissa whispered. By evening, her mother stood at Willow House, furious. "You poisoned my child," she accused. Ayla's apologies fell apart in sobs. "I didn't know," she cried. The punishment came swift and final. Nissa was forbidden to see her. The house felt hollow without her laughter. Ayla stopped talking, stopped eating much at all. One night she told Mara, "Maybe I should leave." Mara's voice was firm. "You will stay. You will learn." Days later, fate shifted. Nissa arrived breathless, begging for help. Her younger sister was ill. Ayla acted without fear, steady hands guided by instinct and borrowed knowledge. The doctor later said quietly, "You did well." Forgiveness followed soon after. Time moved faster after that. Ayla grew taller, steadier, more certain of herself. Mara relied on her more each day. "You see things," Mara once admitted. "That's not common." School became a place of purpose. Ayla studied harder than anyone, driven by a hunger she couldn't name. When a scholarship exam was announced, something inside her locked into focus. "I want this," she told Jonah. "Then chase it," he said. Nights stretched long with books and notes. Mara would remind her to rest. Jonah would smile and say, "Let her dream." On the day of the results, Ayla's hands shook as names were read aloud. When hers came first, the room faded. She had done it. She ran home breathless. "I won," she cried. Mara's mouth curved upward, barely, but enough. "I expected as much," she said. Jonah only nodded, eyes shining. The victory opened doors beyond the island, beyond Willow House. Yet as she packed her bag months later, Ayla felt the ache of leaving the place that had remade her. "I'll come back," she promised the room. "I always will." The walls said nothing, but she believed they heard her. Life away from the island was louder, sharper. Ayla missed the quiet roads and the way evenings settled gently at Willow House. She worked harder than ever, learning not just facts but discipline. Sometimes she saw Rel Thorne in the halls. He smiled now, older, calmer. She ignored him, unsure of what she felt. Letters from home anchored her. Jonah's were brief but warm. Mara's were practical, filled with reminders and careful concern. Then came the night everything changed. A letter arrived that left Ayla breathless. Jonah had collapsed. She returned home at once, heart pounding with dread. The house felt wrong without him. His chair stood empty. His coat still hung by the door. Grief moved in quietly, heavy and final. In the days that followed, Mara confessed her failing eyesight. Ayla did not hesitate. "I'm staying," she said. "This is home." She gave up opportunities without regret, choosing care over ambition. Teaching work followed, modest but meaningful. Each morning she walked the familiar road, no longer a child seeking love, but a young woman who understood its cost. Willow House stood waiting, just as it always had. Standing at the front of the classroom for the first time, Ayla felt a strange calm settle over her. The children watched her closely, some curious, some uncertain. She recognized herself in their restless hands and wide eyes. "Good morning," she said clearly. "My name is Miss Rowan." A few voices echoed the greeting. As the day unfolded, she discovered that teaching was less about control and more about patience. When one boy struggled to read aloud, she knelt beside his desk and whispered, "Take your time. I'm here." After school, she walked home slowly, replaying every moment. Mara waited at the table, listening as Ayla described her day. "You have the right temperament," Mara said at last. "Firm but gentle." The words meant more than praise. They felt like acceptance. That evening, Ayla graded papers while the house rested quietly around her. The work was modest, the pay small, but the purpose was clear. She slept that night with a rare sense of peace, knowing she was exactly where she needed to be. Nissa visited often, her laughter filling the rooms just as it had years before. One afternoon she arrived glowing with news. "I'm engaged," she announced, holding out her hand. Ayla smiled warmly and hugged her. "I'm happy for you," she said, and she meant it. Still, after Nissa left, the house felt quieter than usual. Ayla sat by the window, watching dusk settle over the fields, feeling a small ache she couldn't name. Life had taken them in different directions. She told herself that was natural. Mara noticed the silence. "Change is not loss," she said gently. "It's just movement." Ayla nodded, though her heart needed time to believe it. As autumn arrived, her days grew full with lessons, chores, and long evenings reading aloud to Mara. The routine anchored her. Yet sometimes, when the wind moved through the trees just right, she felt the pull of something more, something unfinished. One evening, as Ayla returned from school, she noticed a familiar figure waiting near the gate. Rel Thorne stood awkwardly, hands in his pockets. "Hello, Ayla," he said. She hesitated before answering. "Hello," she replied evenly. He cleared his throat. "I wanted to tell you. I gave up my post here so you could have it. I'm teaching at White Shore now." Surprise washed over her. "You didn't have to do that," she said. He shrugged. "I wanted to." Silence stretched between them, heavy with years of unspoken words. At last, Ayla said softly, "Thank you. That was kind." His smile was tentative but sincere. "I always hoped we'd be friends," he admitted. That night, Ayla sat beneath the stars, thinking of how easily anger had once ruled her. She realized how much she had grown, how much space she had made for understanding. Winter softened into spring. Willow House bloomed again, steady and patient. Ayla found herself thinking of Jonah often, remembering his quiet encouragement, the way he believed without needing proof. One afternoon, Rel returned, this time carrying a book. "I thought you'd like this," he said. They sat beneath the old tree, discussing stories and lessons, the conversation flowing easily. When he spoke of his students, Ayla listened with genuine interest. "You're good at this," she said. He smiled. "So are you." As the sun dipped low, Ayla felt something settle inside her. Not certainty, not promise, but possibility. She knew her life would remain rooted in this place for now. And for the first time that truth felt like strength, not sacrifice. Willow House stood quiet behind her, holding all the versions of herself she had been, and the one she was still becoming. Spring settled fully over Willow House, and with it came a gentle rhythm Ayla had grown to trust. Mornings began with birdsong and the smell of bread warming in the oven. She helped Mara dress, guided her hands carefully, and read the post aloud at the table. Slowly, Mara would say, smiling faintly. You read as if the words might run away. At school, Ayla noticed how the children watched her. They listened when she spoke. They tried harder when she encouraged them. One afternoon, a girl stayed behind, twisting her fingers nervously. Miss Rowan, she whispered, do you think someone like me can be smart? Ayla knelt beside her. I know you can, she said without hesitation. Walking home later, Ayla realized teaching had become more than a job. It was a promise she kept daily, to herself and to others. That evening, Jonah's memory felt close. She imagined what he would say. Probably nothing. Just that soft look that meant approval. She smiled to herself and whispered, I hope I'm doing well. The house answered with quiet. Nissa's wedding arrived on a clear autumn morning. The church was filled with light and laughter. Ayla stood beside her friend, holding her hand. You look happy, Ayla said. Nissa squeezed back. So do you. Afterward, as guests drifted away, Ayla walked home alone. The road felt longer than usual. At Willow House, she lit a lamp and sat by the window. Change had become constant. She no longer feared it, but it still asked something of her each time. A few days later, Rel visited again. He spoke with Mara in the sitting room, his voice calm and respectful. He's a good man, Mara said later, almost to herself. Ayla didn't answer. She was still learning what she wanted to say. It's the seasons turned. Ayla found joy in small moments. A child reading clearly for the first time. Mara laughing at a story she remembered from long ago. Evenings spent walking the fields with Rel, discussing books and dreams. One night, he stopped near the river and said quietly, I've always admired you. Ayla felt her heart race, but she raised a hand gently. Not yet, she said. I need time. He nodded, unoffended. I can wait. The honesty in his voice stayed with her long after she returned home. Later, she sat with Mara on the steps. Do you regret staying? Mara asked suddenly. Ayla considered the question carefully. No, she said. I chose this. Mara rested her hand over Ayla's. Then it was the right choice. One morning, Ayla woke early and stood at the window as sunlight touched the fields. Everything looked familiar yet new. She thought about the child she had been, the one who arrived with a small bag and a guarded heart. She had wanted love more than anything. Now, she understood that love wasn't something given all at once. It grew through patience, effort, and staying when leaving would be easier. At school, she found a small bouquet waiting on her desk, wildflowers tied with string. A note lay beneath them. For the teacher who taught me to believe. Ayla closed her eyes, breathing deeply. Whatever the future held, she felt ready to meet it, grounded in the quiet strength she had built here. Summer returned softly as it always did, brushing the fields around Willow House with warmth and color. Ayla rose early each morning, long before the children arrived at school. She liked the quiet hours best, when the world felt unfinished and full of promise. She brewed tea, opened the windows, and let the breeze move through the house. Mara sat nearby, listening to the sounds. I can tell it's a bright day, she said once. You walk lighter. Ayla smiled. The light feels kind today. At school, the children greeted her with energy and affection. Miss Rowan, they called, waving papers and stories they wanted her to read. She gave each one her attention, believing deeply that being seen mattered. In the afternoons, she corrected lessons beneath the shade of the old tree, thinking about how much she had changed. She was no longer trying to prove she deserved a place. She had built one. Mara's eyesight weakened further as the months passed. Ayla learned the house by memory, moving through it confidently even in the dark. She read letters aloud, described sunsets, and gently guided Mara through familiar routines. "You've become my eyes," Mara said one evening. Ayla squeezed her hand. "You were mine first," she replied. Though the responsibility was heavy, Ayla never felt trapped. She felt trusted. Some nights, exhaustion crept in, but she reminded herself that care was not a burden when it was chosen. When Rel visited, he brought books and quiet conversation. He spoke respectfully to Mara, never rushing, never assuming. After he left one night, Mara said softly, "He listens well." Ayla nodded. "He does." As autumn approached again, Ayla felt the pull of reflection. One evening, she walked alone along the familiar road, leaves crunching beneath her shoes. She thought about the opportunities she had declined, the paths she had not taken. Strangely, she felt no regret, only curiosity. Later that night, Rel stopped by, his expression thoughtful. "I may be transferred closer next year," he said carefully. "I wanted you to know." Ayla studied his face. "Thank you for telling me," she replied. They stood quietly for a moment. "Whatever you choose," he added, "I'll respect it." The sincerity in his voice settled something inside her. For the first time, she allowed herself to imagine a future that did not require sacrifice to be meaningful. That night, Ayla sat beside the window, stars scattered above the fields. She thought of Jonah, of the way he had welcomed her without certainty, only kindness. She whispered into the stillness, "I'm still here." The house seemed to breathe around her. Willow House had given her shelter, but it had also given her roots. She understood now that belonging was not found in perfection or permanence, but in choosing to stay present. Tomorrow would bring lessons, care, conversations, and decisions not yet made. And for the first time in her life, Ayla felt no urgency to rush toward answers. She was exactly where she needed to be. The new school term began with a quiet energy Ayla recognized immediately. The children returned taller, louder, carrying stories from the summer that spilled out all at once. She listened carefully, encouraging each voice. "One at a time," she said gently, smiling. Teaching no longer frightened her. It steadied her. In the evenings, she and Mara sat together near the window. Ayla read aloud, pausing often to describe the world beyond the glass. "The leaves are turning," she said one night. "Gold and red." Mara nodded slowly. "I remember that color," she replied. These moments felt fragile, precious. Ayla held them carefully, aware of how easily time moved on. Sometimes she wondered how many seasons remained like this. She did not ask. She simply stayed present. Rel continued to visit, though never unannounced, never assuming space that wasn't offered. One afternoon, they walked the path behind the house where the grass bent under their steps. "You've made something strong here," he said quietly. Ayla considered his words. "It made me," she answered. He smiled, understanding more than she expected. At home, Mara listened as Ayla described the walk. "You speak differently when you talk about him," Mara observed. Ayla laughed softly. "Do I?" Mara tilted her head. "Not more. Just deeper." The comment lingered with Ayla long after the conversation moved on. Late one night, unable to sleep, Ayla wandered through the house. She paused at Jonah's old chair, resting her hand on its worn arm. "I hope you'd be proud," she whispered. The words felt heavier than she expected. She realized she had stopped asking herself that question years ago. Pride had become quieter, rooted in daily choices rather than distant goals. The girl who once begged to stay had learned how to remain without fear. Outside, the wind moved through the trees, steady and patient. Ayla stood there for a long time, listening, letting the moment settle. Morning arrived slowly. Sunlight touched the fields, the same fields that had welcomed her years before. Ayla stood by the window, breathing in the calm. Down the road, she saw a familiar figure walking toward the house, unhurried. She did not rush to meet him. She simply watched, thoughtful, grounded. The day ahead was waiting like so many others. Lessons to teach, care to give, words still left unsaid. Ayla turned from the window and moved toward the kitchen, ready for whatever came next.